What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are back reacting to another music production video. It's been a little bit. I need to do more of these. I know, I'm sorry. It's a little bit of a different one though today. Today we are watching how to get ahead of 99% of producers. This is more a mindset, things to do, how to improve as a producer. Now, if you don't know who Cosmic Academy are, they're just a really cool music school, essentially. So I've been watching them for a while. This one came out yesterday. Haven't watched it yet. So we're going to react to it today, see what we think, see if I agree with it, I guess, and see if we can implement some of these things to improve on our own production journeys. So let's just jump into the video. Here we go.
I've seen about 1,000 videos on how to get ahead of
There's a lot of these videos out
99%
there
of other music producers. And mostly they're filled with bullshit. You know, someone telling you to wake up early, or you gotta exercise and meditate.
All right, hey, fitness is important. You know, if you're not in the gym, get in the gym, get bigger. But I understand what you're saying. That's not really the key to success in music. That's just the key to having a healthier life.
Before you work. Oh, no. It's having a healthy routine that gets you there. To be honest, I'm even guilty of giving out some of those tips. But that's not what's going to get you ahead of 99% of other producers. None of your favorite artists were waking up at 6 a.m. like that. They weren't doing a cold plunge to get started. When they were starting out, the beginning of their careers, I doubt that they had a meditation routine. So what did they do? The ones that get ahead of 99%, they do these two things. And while these two things are kind of obvious, they're very hard, very scary. Number one, they were contrarian.
Contrarian? I couldn't even tell you what that word means. We're going to have to listen more. I don't know why I paused it there. That was a stupid pause.
Meaning they went against the grain. They kind of did the opposite of what everyone was doing at the time. And number two, they took risks. Meaning they took a new approach. They might have broken the rules, and they didn't care about failing. You know, when we say getting ahead of 99% of producers, that means you can't do what 99% of producers are doing. You know, looking up afterlife tutorials.
See, I get what he's saying. Right, so the key to being different than 99% is to not follow the 99%. It's like that whole iPhone don't be a sheep thing. It's kind of like if you want to really stand out, you have to do the opposite of where the trends are. So I think probably he's going to talk about it more, but you've got to go against the trends, what contrarian, and then take the risk to go against the trend and stand out from the crowd seems to be the general principle here. And I think he's going to talk about like not, you know, trying to sound like your favorite artist, because then you're just going to sound like them. There's nothing new about that, so why would people listen to your music? I think that's where this is going.
Tutorials and afterlife samples and afterlife presets. Looking up afterlife tutorials and afterlife samples and afterlife presets. It's not going to do anything for you in that way, because the way that afterlife became
those visuals are so
cool. Number one, they were contrarian.
So cool.
They didn't sound like anyone was.
Can we appreciate the afterlife techno visuals are just insane. Forgetting all the phones in the crowd, the afterlife visuals are so cool.
Number one, they were contrarian. They didn't sound like anyone was sounding in techno at the time. Techno was the old school drum code warehouse techno, and that dominated for 20 years. And number two, they took risks. They tried a new approach. So while like techno has always been this like dark, mysterious warehouse kind of vibe, Afterlife said, no, forget the dim lighting. Let's go bright, outside, Tulum, daytime festival. It was euphoric, not dark. And now that's what people are trying to emulate, which goes against 1 and 2. I'm gonna now explain how you can do the same. If you don't.
Right, so yeah, when he talks about like emulating, he's meaning like, whoa, that orange has just come off the screen. Like, once people find the thing that works, everyone jumps on the wagon to try and do that thing. It's pretty similar to any form of socials. You look at TikTok, what was popular, people jump on trends. YouTube, everyone got into YouTube because people were making money on YouTube. But when you just follow the crowd and the trends, you're never going to stand out and be different. You got to try and create your own trend without sounding cheesy, I guess. Or just take a risk and go in a different direction of what you think is going to be cool. And I guess for music, that's trying to make your sound and create what you want to make. Not saying like, oh, tech house is really popular at the moment because of James Hype and John Summit and Chris Lake, so I'm going to make tech house that sounds like John Summit. If you like tech house, that's cool, but you got to come up with your own way of making it, I guess, is where the premise of the video is going.
Don't know, I'm Justin. I run Cosmic Academy, an artist development school, and we've been around now for over 12 years. We've worked with and taught over 800 incredible music producers, and they get the best results. They signed to the biggest labels. Tool Room and Defected and Juno, Monster Cat, Armada. They play the biggest festivals. We have 4 students playing EDC this year. We have 3 students playing Tomorrowland. They played all sorts of shows all over the world. And our students that have this level of success, they get it by doing those 2 things. They went against the grain. Number 1, they were contrarian. And number 2, they were taking risks. Let's look at some huge examples to really see this in action. Skrillex is a great example. In 2010, the dance music world sounded like progressive house and trance. Armin van Buuren was consistently ranked the #1 DJ in the world. Everything was euphoric and bright and melodic. And then Skrillex comes out of nowhere and goes completely contrarian. That #1 thing. You know, what's the opposite of making a euphoric trance record? Make a hard.
I hated this. I hated this era of music. Like this dubstep stuff, or not a bit of me. No. But you can see the point. It's so different. It's a risk, and people loved it. Didn't it? I swear it's won a Grammy.
He did the opposite. And not only that, but he did it in #2, a risky way. He didn't have some huge studio at the time. He famously made that first record, those first sounds, on broken KRKs. Yeah. Everyone back then, they all said, oh, you have to have this great big studio with all this fancy equipment. And Skrillex, he had a laptop and some broken KRKs. And he was really the...
Seems to be the general premise now. You do not need a big studio to be a successful producer. If you've got a laptop and some cool ideas and a pair of headphones, seems to be all you need now. It's like the OG bedroom producer.
One of the first people that you looked at and said, this is a bedroom producer.
See? There you go. And see? I know what I'm saying.
That's going huge. And then bam, it worked. That record
I did not enjoy this music,
Grammys,
I can't lie.
And it paved the way for this resurgence of that sound and this new genre. Let's look at the modern success of people like Chris Lake or John Summit. Whether you love them or you hate them, you have to give them some sort of respect. Today, when someone comes to me and they say, oh, I make tech house, I have to ask them, do you make like Chris Lake, John Summit tech house? Or do you make like old school Tool Room tech house? And they almost always laugh because they know what I mean. And those guys, they've absolutely exploded in the past few years. And look, I know Chris Lake's been around forever, but if you just look at the last few years and look at what they're doing, they're #1 going contrarian. They're going against the grain for what tech house is. Traditional tech house, the tech house music from back in the day, it's like pretty serious to minimal. You know, sometimes it maybe would have a vocal, but it'd be like, you know, drop the bass.
Super minimal. Maybe original tech house, like where it came from like 20 years ago, was super minimal, underground, small stages. It was not commercial like it is now at all. It's gone proper commercial last like 5 years. That big tech house sound is huge now, like almost euphoric tech house. Which obviously that's kind of where I sit in the music I make, but clearly see I need to already be trying to figure out how to go against that, go against the grain, find the own direction that I need to go. Because already I'm always like catch myself looking up tutorials on how to make a sound like this James Hype sound or this chapter and verse sound, you know, so I've already got to like figure out how to actually go away from that and make the sound that I want to make, but not try and be like what's really popular right now. But yeah, original tech house is so different to what people think tech house is now. It's crazy.
Just talking about the club itself. And the parties were very much the same. They're just grooving and chilling. And then here comes guys like Chris Lake, John Summit, and they do the opposite. It's not minimal, it's maximal. It's not serious, it's over the top. And their vocals aren't serious. You know, they're not vocals that are just talking about the club life. The vocals are funny and sometimes kind of stupid. And the tracks are a little bit heavier, and so are their parties. Which is #2. They took risks and they broke the rules. Chris Lake and John Summit, these guys, they're playing the main stages of Ultra and Coachella this year. It's a big deal. Tech house on a main stage is almost unimaginable. But if you look at the crowd and look at what kind of party they're having, it looks way different than the crowds it would be in the tech house.
The old school tech house crowds were small. It was a proper groove, underground kind of music. I think that's why a lot of the old tech heads hate the new tech house, because it's kind of ruined their cult The old stuff, I don't know. This is how it used to be on the right here, so.
House tents from back in the day. Those crowds today, it's wild, it's in your face. There's crowd surfing, fishers jumping everywhere. That's not what Tech House was 10, 15 years ago. You know, this year, that's what's closing Ultra. I can jump to another example. I can look at one of our own students. Look at the success of our student Nostalgics. She took our program 6 years ago, and she's in the bass house world. But 6 years ago, when she joined up with us, bass house had kind of sounded the same. You know, it'd be some old hip-hop sample, probably a male rapper on it, and a house beat. And then she just, number one, went contrarian, and number two, she took risks. She completely switched it up. She put her vocal on it, and that had a hybrid of her singing and rapping. So again, she went contrarian, and she took big risks. She gets on the mic, she raps, she sings at her own shows. You know, there's a lot of house music producers, especially at that time, who would say, oh, you can't get on the mic. You know, you're a DJ, you gotta just concentrate on the mixing.
DJs that spend the whole evening
I'm gonna get on the mic, and I'm gonna jump around
I can't
stage.
stand it if I went to a gig like that.
Stage
I guess it depends who you're going to see. If you go to see someone that you know is on the mic, you kind of expect that. If I went to like and someone was just on a mic shouting, put your hands up all night. Oh, I'd hate it. I'd hate it so much.
Ultra, she's playing Tomorrowland this summer. She's played EDC.
But if you know they're on the mic,
she's
you know what you're going
absolutely
for,
crushed
so
it.
you
By
can't
the
be
way,
annoyed at that.
if you want to be one of our students like Nostalgics, I'll leave a link to apply to our program below.
Should I apply to this program and do a series? Should I try and get on the academy and do a series of progression as a student? Comment down below, let me know.
Always looking for great students to mentor. And by the way, this is all of music, not just dance music. Whether you love or hate Kanye West, he did the same thing. He
Especially now, some of the stuff he's doing now is so
contrarian,
weird.
And number two,
his music was really good,
big
though,
risks and broke the rules. You know, if you go back 20 years, you looked at hip hop at that time, it was all the same kind of thing. And then here comes this guy who went to art school, fashion school, and he's wearing a polo popped and a pink collared shirt, and he's making College Dropout, and he's using vocals in a very, very different way, and he's sampling things in a very, very different way, and it did really well.
He's kind of gone off rail now. I'm not going to get into that, but if you know, he's kind of going off rail right now.
Jump to a different genre. Rock and roll. Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix quite literally took chords that went against music theory. If you're a guitar player, you know exactly what I'm talking about. No one sounded like Jimi Hendrix because he went contrarian
no one
and
ever
he
will.
broke the rules. And we can sit here and see the exact same thing about the Beatles, about
his closing Woodstock set from '69 was just
Prince, about Queen, about
Nirvana.
Blowing. So, what
Nirvana
should you do?
Rubbish.
Well, you gotta stop trying to sound like your favorite artists.
That's what I said earlier. You can't be looking up tutorials and like downloading sample packs because you're just gonna. Who is it? I think it might be James Hype said using sample packs is a great way to sound like your favorite producer quickly, but also the worst way to sound refreshing and new because you're gonna sound like that person. So, is it really worth it? It's great for learning, but it's not going to get you anywhere in production.
Been done. You're going to sound like the 99% of other producers. If you want to stand out, you must go contrarian, and then you gotta take big risks with it. You know, it's scary. It's scary because you're doing the opposite of what everyone else is doing. It's also scary to take risks, to take big swings. That's really the only great way to get ahead. Playing it safe will never get you those huge hits, those huge stages, to those huge levels. There's no reward without the risk. And guess what? If you fail, no big deal. Do you have any idea how many artists before you have had to try so many times, so many records, so many rejections? And look, even if you are playing it safe, you're still gonna have to deal with the rejection.
I live in rejection. Right now, I'm living in a world of rejection. Music rejection, label rejection, gig rejection. It's 99% rejection. The odd time you get a success or someone goes, yeah, come and play a gig here, it's actually a win, which is crazy.
So in my opinion, if that's the case, then you might as well fucking go for it anyway. Now, if you want some tips...
Powerful ending line there. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly kind of where I thought the video was going to go. So, rule of thumb, anyone that's a producer watching this, obviously go and watch the original video if you want, I'll link it down below. Do different stuff, take risks doing different stuff. That's the play, okay. I don't know how I'm going to do that, but I'll have to think about it and maybe change up my music, start going, what does he say? Going contrarian or something like that and taking risks. So next week, I'm throwing the biggest party ever seen at the O2. Oh, God. But yeah, I understand the premise. It makes sense. It makes total sense, especially for music, because you're going to sound like everyone, especially now that everyone can make music a lot easier. You will sound like everyone else a lot more because people are going to try and sound like the people they like to listen to. I can see it being useful to maybe improve. If you guys have any other videos you want me to watch, like react to, link them down below. Always looking for new stuff to react to. I'm going to start doing more of these if I can remember, because they are good videos to make and just good to share the information further. Like I said, original video will be down below in the description. I'll see you guys in the next video. I don't know what that video is going to be. We'll find out. I'll know when you know.